Hi everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be discussing about one very important input function, which is called as scanf. Right, this scanf function is actually present inside the header file stdio.h. That is nothing but our standard input output header file. So this function is present within this. So this is a predefined function. Okay, and we also call this as a formatted input function. So the reason why we call it as a formatted input function is because we make use of the format specifiers when we are making use of this function. So we have already discussed in our previous video what is a format specifier and what are the different format specifiers we have in our C language. So we are going to be making use of those format specifiers here inside of this function. So hence another name for this function, we also call this as a formatted input function. Okay, now what is the purpose of this scanf function? So far what we have been seeing is directly assigning the value for a variable. That is, whenever we create a variable, say for example, okay, I'm going to just create a variable, something like this. Yes, first we have our header file. So I'm just going to say hash include stdio.h. Then of course our main function. Then inside of the main function, that is within the body of the main function, what we are going to do is I'm going to create a variable. So let me say name of the variable is called as age. So I have to give a value for this age. So normally, so far in our programs, what we have been doing, I have been directly assigning the value for the variables. That is, I'm just going to say make use of our equal to our assignment operator and directly say suppose age is 25 years. So like that, I have been giving values, not only for this integer, for any data type. Let us say float. So I'm saying float marks is equal to, so I'm saying 87.23. So 87.23 percentage is the marks. So like this, everywhere, all the variables that I'm creating, so far in our programs, we have been directly initializing the values. But now, what I'm saying is, I want to ask the user to enter the values. That is what we call as a dynamic inputs. When I'm going to run the program, okay, when I'm going to execute the program has to ask the prompt, the user to enter his age. So whatever the value he or she is giving, that value needs to be taken and stored inside this variable called as age. Same way, I'm going to ask the user, okay, what is how much marks he or she has scored. So whatever marks they are entering, that marks needs to be taken and get stored inside this variable called as marks. So like that, I want to develop my programs. So what am I supposed to do for that? Make use of the scanf function. So what is the purpose of the scanf function? To read the value for a variable from the user and store it within the variable. For such kind of activities only, I'm going to make use of this predefined function. Right. So now, what is the syntax? As I have been telling you, each and everything in our C language, whenever we have to use something, we follow a standard syntax or a standard rules for it. So the syntax for our scanf function is within double quotes. So within double quotes, we are supposed to mention the format specifiers. That is, you remember percentage D, percentage C, percentages. So those are nothing but our format specifiers. So within double quotes, inside of the scanf, within double quotes, we are supposed to mention our format specifiers, then followed by a comma. So here the comma is going to act as a separator. So first give the format specifier, then I'm going to say comma, followed by the list of variables. How many ever format specifiers you are giving inside the double quotes, that many variable needs to be given after the comma, where each and every variable will be a comma separated values. So remember how many format specifiers you are going to use within the double quotes, that many number of variables you have to give outside of your, after the closing of your double quotes. Okay, now when you are mentioning the variable name, okay, whenever you're going to mention the variable name has to be prefix, that is before the variable name, you have to add the ampersand symbol. We call this as the ampersand symbol. Now, let us understand a little bit more about this. First step is why we are giving the format specifier. The format specifier here helps us to determine what kind of data I am going to get from the user. Am I reading an integer number? Am I getting a floating point number? Or is it a double value? Or is it a string value? Or is it a single character? What type of data? That is decided based on the format specifier that we are going to be using here inside of this double quotes. So remember, for each and every data type, we have a separate format specifiers available. So always we have to make use of the appropriate format specifiers for doing the job. Now, the second part of our syntax, ampersand symbol. What is this ampersand symbol? The ampersand symbol is what we call as one of the operators. We call this as an address of operator. See, we already discussed, when we discussed about the variables, I hope you remember, each and every variable that you're going to create inside a program, memory space is going to get allocated for that. So what is a variable? Just a name. A variable is nothing but a name, which is going to point to a memory address. So what is the memory address my variable is going to point? Or what is the allocated memory address? So that is always referred to by the ampersand operator. So the ampersand, which is called as the address of operator, it refers to the memory address that has been allocated for that particular variable. For that particular variable v1, what is the address? Same way, comma, next variable if you want to give, then ampersand of v2. So here, the v1, v2, all those things are the variables inside which you want to store the values. So remember the syntax, format specifier has to be there, your ampersand symbol and the variable names. So this is how we are going to be creating our scanf function. Right, so now first let us see an example for this. First, let us see an example for the scanf and then we will come to this return value of the scanf function. Right, so a simple example. What is that I'm going to say? I told you that I'm going to create two variables. So let me take the same program. So age. We are not going to specify any values. Value is going to be taken from the user. So don't specify, just declare the variables. That is, just create the variables. Right. Step number 2. What is that I'm going to say? I am saying printf, enter your age. So ask the user to enter the age. Right. Next thing what I said, using the scanf, we have to read the value and store it inside of the allotted variable. So how we are going to do that? Scanf, then within double quotations, we have to mention the format specifier. So the format specifier that we are going to make use of here, remember age is an integer. So I'm going to say %d. So here we are going to read only one single value. Okay, we are going to read only one single value. So close the double quotes, comma, ampersand age. That is, what is the meaning of it? Read the value. This %d will read the value. So after reading the value, it is going to take that number, whatever we are entering, it is going to take that number and store it inside the memory that has been allocated for this variable called as age. So that is how this scanf function is going to be working for us. Right, so second thing, we have to get the marks. So again, I'm going to make use of another printf function. So I'm saying printf, enter your marks, or we can just ask anything. See, it's just a print. How much did you score? So your message, you can ask any way you feel like. Now again, scanf. So now it is going to read a float. So %f, comma, ampersand. What is the name of the variable? Called as marks. Right. So what is the next step? I'm going to print the values. Whatever I have got, I'm going to print. So I'm saying printf. Okay, go for a new line. I'm just going to say, hi, I am percentage D years old and I scored percentage 0.2f. I want only 2 decimal points, right? So 0.2f marks in my exam. So give the values. So after giving the value, what is that I'm going to do? Close the double quotes, say comma. Then what is the first variable you're going to say? Age. Comma, what is the second variable? Marks. So remember how we are going to use our printf function, right? That's it. So now let us execute the program. Okay, and of course I have the return. Sorry, yeah, the return 0. Now let us run this. Yes. Now when I execute the program, see what happens. Step number 1, it is asking me enter your age. That is the printf statement I have given here. So after that, see what happens. The cursor is pointing here and it is keep on blinking. It is not moving to the next line. Why? Because the scanf function is waiting for our input. So it is waiting for the age. I have to enter the value. So let us say I am entering the age as 15. So see here what happens. Still, it is not over. So once you have entered the value, what you have to do? Press the enter button. So now what happens? The scanf function, this percentage D, will read this value 15 and then take it and store it inside this variable age. Right. After doing this task, it is moving on to the next statement, which is asking how much is your mark. See again, the cursor is keep on blinking. It is not going to the next line until and unless I give some inputs. So once again, I'm going to give an input here. Okay, so let me say 87.5. Right. Again, press the enter button. See now what happens. So, hi, I am 15 years old and I scored 87.50 marks in my exam. That's it. Simple way of writing your program. Getting the value from the user when you're going to run this piece of code. Right, now the same program. This is one online compiler. The same program when you're going to run in some other online compilers like Instax. Okay, remember, we are not going to give any prompt messages here. So it is not in an interactive way. So what is going to happen? You have to frame your sentences. That is, we have to write the program. Then, of course, we have the input section here. So whatever is the input, how many scanfs are here? 2 scanfs are here. So you have to give here 2 values. So first value for the first scanf, second value for the second scanf function. Now when I run this, so what will happen? The first scanf function will read the first value. Whatever is the first value you have given in that input box, it is going to read it, store it within the variable. Then the second scanf function is going to read the second value and store it within the variable. And look at the output I'm getting. Okay, so running the same program in Instax. So when you're running it in other online compilers or any offline compilers, we will be making use of some prompts also, because I need to know what is the detail I have to enter. Okay, that is why we are using the prompt. But when we are running the same type in Instax, no need for us to give any prompt, because we are going to just write the program. Then in the input area, we have to give the inputs here itself. So when the program is running, what is the scanf function going to do? This function will read the value from here and store it within the variable. Like that only it is going to be working. So this is a program, simple program to help you to understand our scanf function. Right. Again, scanf function, it is not necessary that you have to use 2 different scanfs. We can do this work using a single scanf function also. Say for example, what is that I'm saying here? Enter your age, then and marks. So how many data I'm asking them to enter? 2 values. So I'm saying enter your age and marks. So how many format specifiers needs to be there? 2, because one format specifier matching the age, one format specifier matching the marks. So percentage D, because it is an age is an integer. The second format specifier, percentage F. Okay, see, here I am giving a space so that it is little clear. It is the code is little understandable, but space is not compulsory. Even if you don't give a space, if you are writing like this also, it is very much accepted. But for us to understand the code in a much better manner, I am just giving a single space. Now, first value, first variable is there. Now, how to give the second value? Comma, add the next variable. So say ampersand. What is the name of the next variable? Marks. That's it. So now what is that we are doing? We are using a single scanf function to read multiple values. That too values of different data types. Yes, because we are using the appropriate format specifiers inside. So it is very much permitted. Now let us run this code again. See here what it says. Enter your age and marks. Again, my cursor is blinking. Okay, so first I have to give my age. Then, how to give the second value? Please remember, we have to maintain a single space as a separator. Okay, how to distinguish? This is the first value, this is the second value. How to distinguish is, we are going to use the space as a delimiter or as a separator. Right, so first value given, second value is my marks. So, I'm going to say, this is my marks. So, after giving both the values, press the enter button. See how the program works. So not necessary that you have to use multiple scanfs. You can use even a single scanf to read multiple values also. Multiple values of the same data type, multiple values of different data types. But remember, we have to distinguish which is the first value and which is the second value. And how we are going to distinguish that? We are going to be giving a space in between. So the first value space followed by the second value space, then third value. So like that you can read n number of values using a single scanf function. Right. Okay. Now let us go back here. Now I told you that scanf is a predefined function. This scanf function, when they have created the function, they have added a return value of this function. So return type means what? After performing the work, the function is going to give back something. It is going to give me something. What it is going to give me? It is going to give me an integer value. So please remember, scanf function always returns an integer value. So what does this integer value represent? The integer value represents how many inputs. Okay, I said using one scanf function, you can read multiple inputs also. Right. So the scanf returns how many inputs it has read, how many inputs it was able to read successfully. That is what my scanf function is always going to return. So please remember, scanf is a predefined function. So when they have created the function, they have created in such a way that after performing the work, the scanf function will give me back one integer value. What is that integer value? How many data it has successfully read and stored within the variable. It is going to give me that count. Okay, so it is not necessary for us to make use of this return value every time. Say for example, this scanf what I have used here. This scanf is also returning me a value, but am I doing something with the return value? No, it is entirely the programmer's decision. If the requirement is there, then you can take this returned value, store it inside, and you can print it, you can do anything you want. But if the requirement is not there, no need to do anything with the return value. You can just leave it. Just use the scanf like this simply. So how to do it is entirely based on the requirement of the program. Right. Now, another simple example, this is what we saw. Right. So first what we did, here I'm creating two variables called as A and B. Right. So as soon as I create two variables, what is going to happen? Memory space is going to get allocated for both the variables. So A is going to have a memory space. Let us assume the memory address is 6000. And same way for the variable B. Memory address is going to be 9,000. Okay, so as soon as this first line is done, the memory address is going to get created. Then I am asking the user to enter two numbers. See here again, I am reading both the values using a single scanf statement. Both are integers, so %d, comma, ampersand A. So the first number needs to go inside the address of A, and then the second number needs to go into the address of B. Right, so let us assume the two numbers entered by the user are 100 and 820. So 100 will be read by this first %d, and it is going to get stored inside the memory address allocated for this A. So A is going to have the value as 100. Same way, the second value what I have typed is 820. That is read by this second %d, and the value is going to go and get stored inside ampersand B. So the value of B is going to be 820. So now when I want to print it, I'm just going to print it like this. So again, what is going to happen? So the value of A is going to get substituted in the place of the first %d, and the value of B is going to get substituted in the place of my second %d. So this is how the scanf function is going to read the values, and the printf function is going to print the values. Right. So let us see one sample program where we are going to read the value for all of our fundamental data types, or what we call as the primitive data types. I hope you guys remember all the primitive data types, what we have seen so far. Okay, now let us see this program. I'm just going to copy this piece of code and try to execute it. So let us say I'm going to, sorry. Yes, there you go. Okay, see what I have done here. First thing is I'm creating all the variables. So I'm going to create all the variables. So I'm going to say char A, character, then string, then integer, float, double. So I'm going to create one variable of all my fundamental data types. Then I'm going to ask the user to enter the values. Okay, now remember one thing. Each and every data type has its own format specifiers. So when we are using the scanf function to read the values, make sure we are using the correct format specifiers for it. Right, let us try to execute it. Now, once the value is read, I'm just going to print all the values. That's all I'm going to be doing here. Right, now run this. See what it says. First, enter a character. Let me say character is $sign. Then after giving the value, press the enter button. Next, give an integer value. Let us say this is my integer value, 859. Then enter a string. Right, so I'm giving a string value. I'm saying instructs. Next, enter a floating point value. So give a float. Then enter a double value. Remember the difference? Float is used for a smaller version of fractional numbers. Double is used for a bigger version of fractional numbers. Now see, all the data what I have done, I'm just printing it out. So the scanf function, as I said, can be used for all of my data types. So not only integers, not only floats, so all the data types, I can make use of the scanf function. Right, now let us see one more example where I will show you the return value of the scanf. So how does the return value of a scanf function works? For that, we are going to be taking this program. So see here what I have done, A, B, C. Three variables are there, integer variables, and then of course I have another variable called as n. So this n is going to hold the count. So what is the purpose of this n? This n is going to hold the return value. I said scanf function returns an integer number. So to store that number and keep, I am going to make use of this variable called as n. So other than that, what three other values are there? A, B, and C. Now, in the printf, I am asking the user to enter three numbers. Right. So then I'm using the scanf function. I am reading all the three values and I'm going to store it inside the appropriate variables. So ampersand A, ampersand B, ampersand C for three integer numbers. Now, what did I say? After completing the task, The scanf function always returns one integer number. What is that integer number? Count. How many values it has read and stored successfully inside of the variables. It is going to return the count. So the count value is going to be stored inside this variable called as n. Then I am printing the value of n. Right, so let us try to execute this program. So when I'm going to execute this program, I'm going to be given different inputs to actually understand how this is going to be working for me. So let us try it out. Right, first time when I run this program. See, same program what I just explained to you. So first time when I run this program, I am giving 10, 20, 30. Remember, space as a separator. First number, space. Second number, space. Third number. Because I'm using a single scanf statement to read all the three values. So now once you have given, press the enter button. See, what is the count saying? 3. Why the count is 3? Because the scanf function has completely and successfully read 3 values and stored it inside of these 3 variables. That is why the count is given as 3. Now, look at the variations. Okay, look at the different variations here. Now, execute the program again. This time, give the value like this. 10 space 20 space at the rate of. At the rate of is not a number. Please remember, because the scanf function is expecting percentage %d, which represents a number. But what is that you are giving here? You are giving a character. A character, what is the format specifier for that? Percentage %c. So hence there is a mismatch here. In the third value, there is a mismatch. So now when I press the enter button, see what is the count giving me? The count is giving me as only 2. Why? Because the scanf function was able to read only 2 values. First percentage %d will take 10. Second percentage %d will take 20. The third percentage %d, it is not possible for me to read at the rate of symbol using percentage %d. So the scanf function will stop working. So please remember, whenever it is seeing a mismatch, the scanf function will stop the execution. So here what happens? It is after reading 2 values, it is finding a mismatch. So at this point, it is going to stop it. So how many values it has read? 2. That is the count you are going to be getting. Now, once again, run this program. This time, give the value as 10 space at the rate of space 30. Okay, so what is that I'm giving? 10 at the rate of 30. Now what will happen? Think about it. What did I say? The scanf function will stop its execution as soon as it sees a mismatch. So when you run this code, see what is the count I'm getting? What is the return value? 1. Why 1? Because first value, percentage %d, first value 10. Good. Successfully reading it, storing it inside ampersand A. Completed. But second value at the rate of. So mismatch. So it will not go for the third value at all. As soon as a mismatch is there, scanf will stop the work. Up how many variables it has read? Only 1. So that is why the return value is given as 1. Now run this again. This time give the value like this. At the rate of 10, 20. Now you see what is the output? 0. Why 0? Because the first itself is a mismatch. The first itself is a mismatch. So scanf will stop the execution. See, it is not going to throw us any errors, but it is just going to stop the execution and it is going to return the value as 0. Why 0? Because it was not able to read any numbers at all. It did not read even for one single variable. So that is why it is returning the value as 0. So this is how the return value of the scanf function is going to be playing. You can try this program by giving different inputs to see how the program actually works for us. So this is a small intro about your scanf function. So how to read the value, how to read for different data types, and what is the return value of the scanf. So in the next video, we will be continuing some more key points about this same function. Right. Thank you.